So it's Halloween night and you're trying to figure out what to do. Well, you've read the title of this video, so let's get into it. My favorite top 5 board games to play on Halloween. Okay guys, let's get to number 5. Number 5 is going to be Sherlock Holmes and the West End Adventures, specifically the Jack the Ripper campaign. It's another foggy night in late Victorian England, and a couple of women have already been murdered. The newspapers have deemed the name of the murderer Jack the Ripper. Is he going to strike again? Well, he's already striked a couple of times. It's best to assume that you need to help Sherlock Holmes with this one. This one's going to be a fun game, only because it's not necessarily a horror-themed game, but come on, it's Jack the Ripper. He's one of the biggest horror icons in real life to ever happen. And this game allows you to play and try to figure out his string of murders. Can you help Sherlock Holmes in the end, or are you going to fail? It's a hard game, but it is a living campaign, so I can understand why some people might not want to start it and play on Halloween, because you will have to play it a couple of times. It does make use of an awesome map of London, some handouts as newspapers. You have to scan through the newspapers and try to figure out clues to get around the town, or around the city, and figure out who this Jack the Ripper is. It's a hard game, but it's really easy to learn. It's just really hard to win. I want to have a full review of it on this channel very soon. If you're not willing to get stuck into a living campaign, they do make a one-shot in there. There's 10 other one-shots in there called The Death of a Count, where they do in fact reference Dracula by Bram Stoker. So if you're looking for just a one-shot, maybe use that one, The Death of a Count. By the way, Sherlock Holmes is made by Asmodee. That's the publisher for that, so go check them out. Let's go to number 4. This one is made by Smirk and Dagger. This game is called Menace Among Us. You have probably stumbled upon a website somewhere that is talking about the video game Among Us that everybody suddenly is playing. This game, completely different development cycle, is basically the same game. So you are in a spaceship that is, mispowered, it's not really working, and you have to go around and try to fix the spaceship so you can get it working again. However, there are some people in there who may be imposters to who they really are. Does that sound like a familiar game to you? So if you like the video game Among Us, then you'll probably really like this board game Menace Among Us, because they're very, very similar. This isn't technically a horror game, but it will have you looking at your fellow players with shifty eyes for the rest of the night, trying to figure out which one of you is the traitor in this spaceship. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 is Mansions of Madness. Mansions of Madness is my favorite game of all time right now. Mansions of Madness is a great game that has you going to certain buildings where the mythos of Cthulhu and Lovecraftian things are going on, but you don't really know what's going on. And you get to play through this tile-based game where you literally go through a house or a mansion or a library, someplace that is haunted by the Cthulhu mythos. It uses an app. It's really fun. Unlike the first edition, the second edition, again, uses the app and it tells the story through the app and through the TV. It's so much fun. The only reason why I don't have it lower on the list is because after talking with a couple of people about it, I understand that it is not a pick-up-and-play game. If you wanted to go out and get these games today, you're like, oh my gosh, it's Halloween, I need to go get these games right now. Mansions of Madness might be the game on here that you might want to read a little bit more of. So you might want to get the day before or a couple days before so you can know everything and have the millions of tokens punched out and ready to go. As for that, that's the reason why it's number 3. Fantasy Flight, they made a great Cthulhu game. They make a lot of really great Cthulhu games, but man oh man, Mansions of Madness is really my favorite. Before we get to number 2, if you like this video so far, give us a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe. We are Game On. We love to talk about games, tabletop games, board games, war games, RPGs, anything of that sort. We're gamers for gamers, so if you like that idea and you want to stick around, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 is Mysterium. Mysterium has you going to a house where a murder took place, and you are there to conduct a seance to summon the ghost and figure out who murdered it. The thing is that one of the players is the ghost. And what's really cool about that is that that player can't talk. That player has to give you dream cards to help the players, that's not the ghost, so the seancers, interpret what actually happened. And then you, as the player that's not the ghost, the seancers, have to figure out who killed the ghost. It's a fun, easy game to learn, but it's not the easiest game to be, well, it's not the easiest game to win. It's definitely a fun pick up and play game. It's very simple, but it's hard to master. Before we go to number 1, we're going to talk about 4 honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1 is Arkham Horror by Fantasy Flight. I don't so much care for the newest edition, but the edition before the newest one, I think it's 2nd edition, that's a fun game. That requires a lot of also punching things out, and you might want to read the rules of that a couple of times before you can play it. Second is Nevermore by Smirk and Dagger, based off of the Edgar Allan Poe poem. It is a very fun card game. You can get a couple of games of those in an hour. They're really fast. Number 3 is going to be the Doom board game by Fantasy Flight. Why the Doom board game? A lot of people think of Doom as like a horror game. It is a horror game. So, Doom, the board game, why not? That's a big board game though, so be ready to kind of wipe your brow as you are reading the instructions for that, because that one's a big one. And last but not least, by Cephalofair is Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven is a great game. Again, I would have put that in my top 5. It's just not a game that I think that everybody's going to want to pick up and play right away. This is definitely a game that you're going to want to read more of and just be in the mood for that, because it can go long, but it's a good game. I like Gloomhaven. I'm not saying anything bad about it. And now for our number 1 board game to play on Halloween. I haven't said it yet, but I'm sure most of you guys have already figured it out. It is Betrayal at the House on the Hill by Avalon Hill. This game was my favorite board game before Mansions of Madness. This is a fun board game that uses tiles similar to Mansions of Madness, where you lay out the house in a random order. So you are asked to go to a haunted house and figure out what the heck is going on, and then through a very clever way of timing, through dice rolls and from picking up certain omens, you have the experience of one of you becoming a traitor. And the rest of the party now has to figure out how to win the game, and the traitor has different winning conditions. There are close to 100, if not more, with expansions of different game styles. Anything from being like a Scooby-Doo goofy kind of going into a haunted house and it's just a man with a bed sheet, really funny stuff, to campy horror kind of things, as well as like legitimate horror icons akin to Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. It is a fun game because it's not that hard to pick up and play. It doesn't really take a whole lot of rules to explain, and it allows for some roleplay if your players are into that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's also just a really fun game where one of you guys gets to betray everybody else, and, well, you're in a haunted house and something bad is happening. Thank you guys for watching. How did you feel about my top 5 of the board games to play on Halloween? Again, these are my opinions. Let us know in the comments below how you believe I should have ranked these. Is there anything else that I should have put in here? Do you have different ideas as to what to play on Halloween? Let us know. Give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Here, you'll have a video of my Mansions of Madness full review, and here you'll have a video of Matt and I's podcast last year on how to run an RPG one-shot for Halloween. I thank you guys very much for watching and subscribing and liking the video. Stay spooky, and game on!